Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm excited and inspired to be with everyone tonight. You are exactly the antidote that we need right now after yesterday's events, because yesterday was a day none of us ever wanted. At noon, Donald Trump took the solemn oath to preserve, to protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And a few hours later, he broke that solemn oath. He turned that oath into a lie when he pardoned convicted January 6th insurrectionists who attacked our democracy. When he announced his intention to overturn birthright citizenship, when he pulled us out of the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, when he made clear his intention to replace hardworking public employees with his cronies, when he invited a new billionaire boys club to sit front row at his inauguration and moments later pledged to gut Medicaid and undermine lower drug prices. From day one, Donald Trump is singularly committed to abandoning working people, their future, and our very democracy, all for the sake of wealth and power. Not a single thing Trump pledged to do yesterday would lower costs for families or make our nation safer. For those of us who are dedicated to working people, to the rule of law, to ending the systems of oppression and creating the more just future that we celebrated yesterday on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we must be resolute in resisting the worst of Trump. We have to have a call to action. And I'm honored and grateful to be joined by Massachusetts Action Stars tonight. They are the leading lights in our state, all of whom are fighting for justice, for equity, and for our rights, for our democracy, and for our future. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell, Boston Mayor and brand new mother to Mira, Michelle Wu, Chrissy Lynch, President of the AFL-CIO, Rebecca Hart-Holder, President of Reproductive Equity Now, Liz Sweet, Executive Director of Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, Mira, Tanya Neslusan, Executive Director of Mass Equality, Carol Rose, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and the brilliant Portia, the city of Boston's poet laureate. What an honor to have her. We have all gathered here tonight because we need a new opposition movement, a resistance, an effort that will push back and hold the line to the anti-democratic, inhumane, and unconstitutional whims of Donald Trump's second administration. And it must be a movement that embodies what Massachusetts stands for, which is what these organizations and speakers do: justice, health, access to opportunity, equity, the truth. Our movement will need to do what Massachusetts has always done: engage in the moral debates of our time, look to the future, include even those we don't always agree with, and push forward this inspiring experience we call American democracy. We know we can do it. We've done it before, but our real test begins today, the first day of the new Trump administration. There is much for us to be daunted by. He and his cronies are more experienced and more extreme. The fights will be hard and painful, and it might feel like the deck is stacked against us. But that's when we need to fight harder, because we are fighting for our livable future. Right now, just so all of you know what's going on, we're actually having a debate on the Senate floor on Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense. And so Senator Warren and I, we're going to have a couple of votes over the next, half hour to an hour, and we'll be going back and forth. But it's just symbolic of what we're talking about, to have somebody who is totally unqualified to be Secretary of Defense, to be someone who is being debated on the Senate floor as we speak. And there are just so many other issues beyond defense, because Donald Trump is unleashing, he says, American energy, an executive order which includes an attempt to terminate the Green New Deal, something Mayor Wu and I care a lot about. All of you on this call care a lot about. But Donald Trump and I agree on one thing, that the historic Inflation Reduction Act does actually have the Green New Deal in its DNA. The Green New Deal movement was built in response to the climate crisis, and the IRA was signed to help solve the climate crisis. The IRA, by the way, has already created 400,000 jobs in America. Chrissy Lynch knows this. $372 billion has already been spent, and that's just the first 2 years. So when I hear Donald Trump just say, drill, baby, drill, I know that we're going to have to fight, baby, fight in order to protect it. Fight for our Green New Deal values, no matter what Donald Trump says, because when we fight to save our planet, we fight for jobs. We fight for the health of our kids. We fight for clean air and water, and we fight to save American homes and the wallets from climate-fueled chaos. Trump isn't naming a cabinet, he's naming a cartel at the Department of Energy and these other agencies. And we know that for our democracy to succeed, it needs courageous people. And on all issues, Massachusetts has always provided these courageous people. We fought for universal health care in Massachusetts, and we won. We led on the issue of getting the highest minimum wage in the country, and we won. We fought for equal rights for all people, regardless of sexual orientation, and we won. Standing against Trump's vision is an act of love for justice, for truth, for humanity. We will not bow down or turn away. We will not give up or give way. We will not simply obey. We will fight for what we believe in, whether at the ballot box, in the courtroom, through legislation, or on the streets, through art, music, brushstroke, in our workplaces, with our friends, families, loved ones, and especially with young people. So our work began yesterday at 12:01 p.m. And I know that everyone on this call is in for this struggle over the next 4 years. So please join the movement. You can go to edmarkey.org. Get involved, edmarkey.org, get involved and sign up for future actions. Each of our speakers tonight will be providing their information to get involved so that you can reach them as well. So stay involved and be committed to the action we need in the days ahead. So this is a big moment in our history, and it's my great honor to introduce our next speaker, who is going to be a leader in protecting our constitutional rights this year and for the next 4 years, Attorney General Andrea Campbell. Welcome, Attorney General.
Thank you, Senator Markey, and thank you to all of the panelists who are here. We've been doing this work in partnership long before today, and I'm grateful for each of your leadership and your bold and courageous leadership of your organizations. And just frankly, I'll be candid, being badasses, because that's what it's going to take in this season, in this time period, and of course, over the next 4 years. I'm also grateful to each and every one of you who have joined this call, because it must be a collective action. And so when you are sitting at home, maybe feeling a bit hopeless or feeling as if you don't know what to do or how to participate, calls like this is one way to participate. And of course, joining our efforts. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you for taking time out of very busy schedules to be here. I apologize I can't be on too long because I am sitting outside of the Massachusetts Women Political Caucus's annual meeting, and I'm here to speak to these incredible women who have helped, frankly, elect most of us who are on this call, and I'm grateful for that. They are continuing to do great work. What I will say is, I'm very mindful that right now in Massachusetts and across this country, there are folks living with fear and anxiety with respect to the hateful rhetoric we all heard yesterday. And of course, the slew of executive orders that we are still reviewing. We were up late last night, my team and AGs and teams across the country, reviewing a whole host of executive orders and figuring out how we were going to fight back collectively. So I want to first acknowledge that pain and suffering that folks may feel. At the same time, I want to remind folks that we're really blessed to live in Massachusetts, not only because of the leadership on this call, but because in the AG office, you have not only an AG that will fight for you, but we have tools to fight back. I've always held it very special as an honor and privilege to be your AG, to serve you. And I take my mandate and direction from the people. I'm accountable to you. And what you've made crystal clear is that we won't stand for policies that are cruel, that will target innocent babies, that will target folks in our immigrant community, demonize them, or suggest they are all criminals, that will target folks in our LGBTQ plus community, that will strip constitutional rights away from us, including rights we have established for centuries, and so much more. That we are a state that leads not only with inclusivity and compassion and empathy, but one that is a leader, one that has established some of the very rights that we will be talking about probably over the next 4 years as we fight to protect them. We have been doing great work in the office to address issues of affordability, to bring down prices, to make sure our kids, as a mom of 2 beautiful boys, are protected, to take on the mental health crisis in this country and in Massachusetts, to protect workers, to stand up for folks, ensure they have access to all forms of health care, reproductive health care, gender affirming care, addressing maternal health disparities, and so much more. That's just scratching the surface. And as I tell my team every day, I refuse to let one man disrupt the incredible work we have accomplished as a collective. I refuse to allow an administration to disrupt this work. While I recognize at moments we're going to have to be more reactive than proactive, we will be both proactive and reactive when it comes to this work. And reactive is what we'll do when necessary. And of course, we had to do that just today. We filed a lawsuit leading the way with several other colleagues across the country to protect birthright citizenship. It is shocking and also sad at the same time that we have to go to court to fight for a fundamental right like birthright citizenship, which was enshrined in the 14th Amendment in our Constitution, coming out of the fight, the collective fight that we all, frankly, maybe in different ways and different generations participated in to ensure that post-slavery, Black folks had access to citizenship and so many others. So we're in court now fighting to enjoin or to stop that executive order from taking action, and reminding the president that if you want to address issues of immigration, don't do it against and on the backs of innocent babies. Work hard and roll up your sleeves to work with us to create pathways to citizenship. Don't undermine the very Constitution that is the foundation of our democracy if you say you care about democracy and democratic values. If you say you care about public safety, don't pardon criminals, and so much more. The list can go on. I apologize, a long period of time to be with you, but I want you to know that we have tools to fight back. The birthright citizenship lawsuit is just one example of our litigation tools that we will use to protect you. We also have the ability, of course, to use this very platform to make sure folks are aware of their rights. I would encourage you to visit our website or to follow us at Mass AGO, where we put out all types of training so folks in real time know what their rights are as we fight to implement them. We also have resources and grants to be able to fund organizations on the ground that are working in collaboration with us to take on this fight, understanding you have a tall order ahead and may not have the resources you need. We will exercise that grant tool, and we will do it with a sense of urgency to make sure you're resourced and that you're in this fight with us. And lastly, we have the power, I should say, to show up in the State House, to fight for legislation that would protect us. When the federal government walks away, we are blessed in Massachusetts because we have laws that expand our protections right here in Massachusetts to allow us to ensure that folks can live and thrive and prosper here in the great Commonwealth. And I'll just end with this. When it gets really hard or you feel a sense of hopelessness, I would encourage you not only to reach out to any one of us, but to reflect on your own stories. Where was a time when you had to fight and you overcame something that you thought was insurmountable or impossible? And maybe you had to do it by yourself. But know in this moment in time, you're not by yourself. You have an AG that sees you, that cares about you, and that will fight with you along with these collective organizations. You have an office that is incredibly hardworking, dedicated to public service, dedicated to compassion and empathy. And we will fight really hard to use every tool in all of our credibility to support you and to fight for you and on your behalf. And if it gets really hard, I would encourage everyone, as I did right before I came onto this, to listen to the Reverend Bud, who delivered a very powerful sermon today to the president. And you could see he was very uncomfortable with it, reminding him to have mercy on those in our communities, to really not only demonstrate the character of the God I serve, but the love and the compassion and the mercy as well, which I think in this season and time is critically important. She exercised courage to stand up and to speak out, not to be an enabler, to share and to speak out. All of us have that ability to do that, as well as take action. So join our effort. And I say ours, everyone on this call. Again, Senator Markey, thank you. Thank you to all of my colleagues, including my elected counterparts in government, and to all the organizational leaders. I know how hard you're working. Thank you. And thank you to all of you for being on tonight. And I'll see you in person very soon. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Attorney General. Thanks for all the great work you're doing. And now the roll call has gone off, so I'm going to have to run across the street and then run right back. But I'd like to introduce our great Green New Deal mayor, who is just a phenomenal leader. And then maybe, Madam Mayor, you could then introduce Chrissy Lynch, the head of the AFL-CIO for Massachusetts, and then hopefully then I can be back before that. But so welcome, Madam Mayor. Whenever you are ready, please join us.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you, everyone. Mira and I are very happy to be with you. My husband is out with the other two kids' activities, so this is what working mom life looks like at 1 week old. She's doing great, and her waking time is dedicated to eating and pooping, and she does both of those things very loudly. So I'm warning everyone, she's working on the second one of those right now. You know, when you're in this situation, it's hard not to just feel the starkness of what's at stake and how much we are impacting the future that our kids are going to grow up in every single day in moments like this. So I couldn't be more proud to live in Massachusetts, to have, as the Attorney General said, this team of elected officials, leaders from every sector, fighting and moving in the same direction to protect people. It often feels like that's what's getting lost these days, real people with the struggles that you have to have in raising a family and taking care of all the various needs and putting food on the table. And all of that seems harder with what we're up against. Mostly I'm here, you know, as a city official, just to say thank you, because many of the jurisdictional fights end up being, you know, led by those in our federal delegation or with the Attorney General and those who are all the partners here who are involved in the court system to fight for accountability and justice. But it's extremely personal. And today I was remarking on the fact that my parents weren't citizens when I was born in this country. They, you know, achieved that many years later and are some of the probably the proudest people I know to live in this country and to feel the sense of what it means to be an American. But I am only a citizen because of birthright citizenship and the attempt to violate the law, to undermine so much of what we stand for and so much of what has gotten us to this point as a society, as a community, as a country. As one of the very first actions, again, is a reminder of how much each and every one of us is needed right now to buckle down and be involved. At the city level, we are here. Our role, I see it, is to be that example of what it means to show what works, right? We are a city where our laws, our leadership, our policies are around taking care of people, taking care of families, and that includes families from every background, every walk of life, no matter your status, no matter where you were born, no matter the language you speak at home, no matter your family constellation or exactly how that is defined according to some of the people who are now in charge. We are here to take care of people, and that has gotten us national recognition, right? Our laws on the books saying we are going to protect our communities by keeping everyone safe and making everyone comfortable in getting involved and speaking out. That has led to national recognition that Boston is the safest major city in the country with the policies we have on the books and that we've had on the books for over a decade now. We see the same thing when it comes to how we're taking care of our families in schools, or investing in lowering the cost of housing, or fighting for climate resilience in order to deliver great jobs and make sure that we are keeping our communities healthy and safe. It's working. We have the numbers to back it up, and we have the results that we've been able to show, and we are going to keep going. So we need all of you to be involved in that as well. It's definitely uncertain times ahead, and I know that eats at each and every one of us in a different way and sits very heavily as we're trying to balance everything in our lives. But I couldn't be more grateful for this collective assembled here and the various ways that we are going to just keep running at it to make sure that people are at the center, and that Boston, Massachusetts, and everywhere else that we can have an impact even beyond that really sees what's possible when we band together and take care of everyone in our communities. So thank you again to Senator Markey for assembling us, and to all of the leaders who are here for what you do each and every day. I am very grateful on behalf of my family for the life that you're making possible here in Massachusetts. So now it is my honor to pass it on to a fellow mom, someone who I admire and just respect and love so much, Chrissy Lynch, president of the AFL-CIO.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. It's so nice to meet the baby virtually, and you are an inspiration to working women everywhere. Thank you, Senator Markey, for having me on tonight to really underscore, I think, the existential threat this new Trump presidency may have on working people. To anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Chrissy Lynch. I am very honored to be the president of the Massachusetts AFL-CIO. We are a federation of over 800 local unions from just about every sector you can imagine, representing nearly 500,000 union members across the state. And for too long, our economy has been rigged to favor corporations over people, the wealthy over the working class. And Lord knows that just became exponentially worse, with billionaires now running the White House, and oligarchy is now in power. At the AFL-CIO, we really see ourselves as the front line against that type of corporate power. We strive to create a fair economy that centers equity and fairness, and one that actually works for working people. To do that, we help our unions organize more members, we assist them in winning the best contracts possible, and we connect the shared threats and the shared opportunities before each union into a unified agenda that we can push in the State House and we can push in Congress, because in addition to strong collective bargaining agreements, we know that we also need laws that help improve the lives of working people. Yesterday was MLK Jr. Day. We reflected on how intertwined the labor movement and the civil rights movements are. The fact that Trump's inauguration took place on this day is a powerful and sobering contrast. Trump will govern using the same rhetoric we've seen, by pushing through policies that sow working class division, that keep working people pointing fingers at each other based on what they look like, how they identify, who they love, where they came from. Trump wants us fighting over the crumbs left behind by the corporate greed that is squeezing workers' wages, the corporate greed that is making the cost of everything so high, the corporate greed now fueling unprecedented levels of misinformation in the media. We must stand together as a united working class, a united multiracial working class, to reject that division. We must talk with our fellow members and our family and our friends about the true cause of inflation. It is not people collecting SNAP benefits. It is corporate greed. The action this administration has already taken against immigrants is to stoke fear, plain and simple. It's to distract and divide us so that they can seize even more power and make greater profits off of our labor. The bottom line is an immigrant does not stand between you and a good job. A billionaire does. And in the union movement, we know that. Trump's attacks on federal workers began on his first day in office today, when he reinstated Schedule F, which he created during his first term and laid out as a priority in Project 2025. This is setting the table to clear out hundreds of thousands of hardworking federal employees who make our government work and replace them with political loyalists who will do Trump's bidding. Let's be clear about who these federal workers are that Trump wants to be able to remove without due process. They're the people who care for our veterans. They make sure our families get their social security checks and their disability checks. They protect our airports. They inspect our food. They help survivors of disasters. So just a quick fraction of what else Trump threatens. He's talking about allowing states to ban labor unions, eliminate overtime protections, choose to not follow the measly federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. He's trying to make it harder in every way for workers to join a union, make it harder for workers to negotiate a contract, and for union employers who follow the rules and treat their workers right to get work. He's already trying to shut down offshore wind. This is going to cost Massachusetts thousands of good jobs. He and his party are trying to weaken the child labor rules that protect kids from working in mines and meatpacking plants and other dangerous workplaces. It's a very, very partial list, but it's also a very scary list that I think provides a snapshot of what we are facing. The good news is that we're hard at work here in Massachusetts to create safeguards for working families against these attacks. Over the next 4 years, one way to limit the harm federally is to uphold our strong values in Massachusetts and build off of them, as our AG just said. Trump wants to make it harder for people to join a union at the federal level. Well, here in Massachusetts, we've introduced the Protect Labor Act to ensure private sector union rights are protected under state law. Trump is already handing over the reins of the White House to big tech corporations, who, as President Biden just warned in his farewell address, could wreak havoc on our society without proper regulations. Here in Massachusetts, we've introduced the FAIR Act to protect workers from having machines and algorithms make decisions about their employment. Trump wants to attack the prevailing wage, which helps ensure that bids are awarded to the most qualified bidder, not who can cut the most corners and mistreat their workers. We're working on legislation to close that loophole that allows companies to underpay or steal wages from workers. Look, our movement is ready to defend and build off of these fundamental rights for all working families. We're proud to join with our allies here tonight to counter Trump's unfair and unconstitutional attacks. So together we can ensure that everyone is safe on the job and can continue to build an economy that supports working families, not corporate billionaires. The labor movement is ready to fight for our collective future and to carry out our mission, which is kicking ass for the working class. So thank you for having me. I'm happy to pass it over to Senator Markey or over to my friend, who I'm very honored to stand shoulder to shoulder with, who I think is up next, Becca Hartholder. Thank you for having me.
And I just got some more steps in, running over and back on this first Pete Hegseth vote, and it's hard to keep these guys honest, but thank you, Chrissy. Thank you for being the standard for the whole country, centering working people, centering unions. So thank you. And next, as Chrissy just said, we're going to hear from Rebecca Hart-Holder. We're going to have a battle on protecting reproductive rights, and it's starting in week one. It's just absolutely unbelievable, and we're lucky to have the national standard in fighting for abortion rights. And we'll turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Senator. It's such an honor to be on this call with such an amazing group of activists. I'm so glad that you brought together labor, immigration, LGBTQ rights, privacy rights, and reproductive rights, because all of these issues are interconnected. And all of us on this call know that when we organize for equity and for justice, that's when we unleash our superpower. It is nothing short of our pathway to victory. I also want to acknowledge briefly how difficult this week, I mean, we're a day in, and how difficult this week is for our brothers and sisters in the immigrant and trans communities. And I want to be clear that all of us on this call stand in solidarity with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Trump and his yes men billionaires want to strip us of our rights and our bodily autonomy. They want to take away the freedoms that we have worked so hard to secure by erecting barriers to essential reproductive health care. And they want to take us back to a time that nobody wants to return to. Tonight, I want to fill you in on a few of the threats posed by the Trump administration and how Massachusetts can and will be ready to fight back. First, repro advocates are closely monitoring attacks on mifepristone, which is the first drug used in the most common medication abortion regimen. We've seen attacks on mifepristone in the courts over the last year, but we're watching to see whether the Trump administration will take regulatory action to restrict access to this essential drug. They could do so by having the Department of Justice enforce the Comstock Act, which is a zombie law that was passed in 1873 that could be interpreted to prohibit the mailing of medications and possibly even devices used for abortion and other types of reproductive health care. To be clear, this law has not been enforced in more than a century, but it could come back to life. They could also restrict medication abortion access by having Trump's FDA reinstate medically unnecessary restrictions on mifepristone, or even attempt to have the FDA revoke mifepristone's authorization altogether. They know that in order to restrict access in states like ours, a state that stands up for reproductive freedom, they have to actually ban a method of abortion care, because the people of Massachusetts will always fight for reproductive freedom. That's why Massachusetts stockpiled a more than 2-year supply of mifepristone, because we will ensure that our providers are able to continue providing essential care regardless of the administration's attacks on medication abortion. We're also closely watching threats to emergency abortion care. Trump and his anti-abortion friends do not want EMTALA, which is the federal law that requires Medicare-funded hospitals to provide emergency medical care to cover abortion. They don't seem to think that abortion care is life-saving, despite watching women actually bleed out in parking lots after being denied basic health care. And Trump could once again gut Title X funding for the federal family planning program, which would devastate sexual and reproductive health care clinics' budgets across our nations. When the Trump admin issued the Title X gag rule in his first term, Massachusetts stepped up to fill the gaps and provide essential funding to our reproductive health care providers. We need to make sure we are ready to do so again. But Massachusetts must also understand our outsized impact on the rest of the nation. Right now, Massachusetts providers under our state's SHIELD law are providing telehealth abortion care to thousands of patients in banned or restricted states every single month. We are changing the abortion access landscape nationwide, and we have to continue to do this with innovative, nimble, and fearless work to expand access to care for folks from near and far. That means we have to go further to expand access to care throughout pregnancy so that people don't have to leave Massachusetts for abortion care and people can come to our state for the care that they need. And that means that we have to explore every avenue to make sure that our SHIELD laws, which protect providers from the reach of hostile out-of-state litigation, are as strong as possible. As the Trump administration sows chaos, confusion, and fear, we have to get the word out about essential resources. Repro Equity Now runs an abortion legal hotline with assistance from our partners at the ACLU, who you'll hear from tonight, that can connect patients and providers to free attorneys to help them understand their rights to either obtain or provide abortion care. The hotline can be reached at 833-309-6301, and the link is in the chat. I just want to say it's okay to feel overwhelmed at the coming onslaught of attacks. It's a lot, and it impacts so many issues we all care so deeply about, from climate justice to racial justice, immigrant justice to reproductive justice. And you might be wondering, what can one person do? We need to turn to our communities and focus on community care. That could mean helping make sure that people in your life know how to access abortion care and that it's still legal here in Massachusetts. Repro Equity Now has an abortion care guide that can help you do just that. That could mean having emergency contraception and mifepristone in your medicine cabinet because you never know when someone in your life will need it. That could be saying, hey, this year I'm going to submit legislative testimony on 3 bills that I care about so that my legislators know what's important in my community. And it could mean getting involved with organizations like Repro Equity Now and the other orgs you will hear about on this call. 4 years is a long time, and we have to stay connected to this work and to our communities with small, repeated steps. They want us to become apathetic. They want us to become tired. That is how they win. But the thing is, we won't back down. We won't roll over. We will stand up and fight for our rights with everything we've got. So thank you, Senator Markey, for being one of those fighters leading the fight, including this evening.
Thank you, Rebecca, so much. And Patty Murray, Senator from Washington State, she got up today in the Senator's Luncheon, the Democrats, just to tell us that that whole thing about, oh, don't worry, abortion rights are safe, it's all settled, you don't have to worry, we're not coming from it. They're putting it up here in the first month. It's just absolutely unbelievable. That whole thing is one big lie about what their agenda was. So thank you for being at the front of the resistance. Thank you. And now our next speaker is a writer and a performer, an educator, a curator. She's the author of the collection I Shimmer Sometimes, and she is the poet laureate of the city of Boston. So welcome, Portia.
Thank you all so much for having me. I'll do my best to be brief, but poignant. As a queer Black woman artist celebrating my 5th month marriage anniversary, I'm honored to be on this call to action with leaders who care with urgency about my rights and the rights of others. I'll start by saying I had a difficult time deciding what to read tonight, in part because I'm terribly sad, and in part because I am terribly angry. The poet Toni K. Bambara says the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I am afraid that President Trump has made the revolution not only irresistible, but also a necessity. As opposed to a call of fire and fury, I am so vengefully hopeful. I believe that the more we connect as humans, the more we can see each other, the more we can fight for each other. And so I'll read a poem. And the poem, I suppose, is a world in which laws and executive orders like the ones signed over the last 48 hours do not exist. And I hope it inspires us to take charge or change. This poem is called, Had My Parents Not Been Separated After My Father's Traffic Stop, Arrests, and Deportation from the United States of America. We might all be sitting about the pink kitchen table with the white legs. My father, a taxi driver, might have come home late in the evening with 2 large chuck steaks, bloody red, fresh, best he could bring. He might have seasoned the meat, his thick brown hands gently letting loose salt how God did earth. He may lay a sheet of cayenne over the flesh, a homeland conquered by sun, a fire gouged between cheeks, eyes watering a flag of surrender. My father might have survived the night to serve us. My father, with his skin shining, his head smooth, might have built me a treehouse in the front yard with tools from his orange metal box. And my mother, sharp, discerning, the quiet keeper of sacred emblems like our family's marrow, might have never let me climb in that treehouse because, as it were, gunshots littered our streets the way the dead plagued a hospital. Had my father not been deported, he and my mother might have had another child. It's likely they build a new back porch and have a garden with peppers, just like our neighbor Ronnie. My mother might have grown a row of cabbage, all green and light, tight and bald like this. It'd be a Wednesday. And my father, my brother, and I might whisk our bikes down Lakeshore Drive, or pitch a tent in the backyard, or watch Terminator, or the movies where Eddie Murphy played a cop from Beverly Hills, my father may have been filled with enough cracks in his face to cause an earthquake of laughter to ripple through our home. One dusk, with the light gleaming in from our living room windows, I imagine he might step into one of my mother's bright silk dresses, the purple one. He'd squeeze his feet into her pumps and prance around the house he bought her as a gift years before. My mother may have giggled at my father's silliness, and he may have sauntered over to her with his palm down and his wrists bent as though he was expecting to have his hand captured by a long-awaited love. My mother might have said something like, "Man, if you don't take off my good dress, you finna buy me another one." And my mother may not have really been mad, and you could tell by how she cocked her neck back into the side, alabaster gleaming a curve into her face. She might have smiled through the threat. My father might have held her around the waist with one arm and pulled her into his chest, how I do the woman I love when I miss her so much it aches. And my parents may have kissed, maybe on the lips. And my father, fool, may have reached his hand to my mother's string of beads, removed it, and placed the necklace over his own head to lay along his chest. Her earrings may dance from his lobe, and my father, a man who gave like a tree, might have lined his fingers over my mother's tuned heart and swayed his hips to its cadence. Thank you all so much.
Powerful, Portia. Thank you. It's absolutely beautiful, inspiring, and just a big highlight for all of us just to have you here. Thank you. Thank you, Portia.
Thank you so much, Senator.
And the deportation issues are just going to be front and center moving forward right now. And we actually have 1,100 people who have joined us right now who are listening. I mean, it's a huge number of activists across the state who are listening in and ready to go. And we have Liz Sweet from MIRA, to talk about these immigration issues, the deportation issues, as they're going to affect Massachusetts. So thank you, Liz, for everything that you're doing and your organization. And whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank Senator Markey for hosting this critical event and for being such a strong, ongoing champion for immigrant rights in the Senate. And I'm so grateful for all the elected officials and advocates on this call who are making their voice heard right now and will every day in the years to come. But I really want to take a moment to recognize that incredibly powerful poem Portia just shared with us. And it's such a powerful reminder to all of us how much arts are so central to our resistance, and sharing culture and wisdom, such as we just heard, is going to strengthen all of us in the fights to come. So thank you so much. We all know that yesterday, Trump signed a series of executive orders that really launched true attacks on our immigrant communities. These newly signed executive orders are numerous, they are ugly, and they are simply not good for our communities. But as so many speakers here have already said, just as they launched those attacks yesterday, we all also began to fight back. I am privileged to serve as the executive director of the MIRA Coalition, which is a coalition of more than 140 organizations across the Commonwealth who advocate collectively for the rights and inclusion of immigrants. These 140 organizations and so many more partners, allies, and volunteers have already been organizing. And I want to be so clear that for the next 4 years, we will be getting up every single day and continuing to organize, advocate, and work toward a Commonwealth and a nation where all of us can live in safety and all of us can thrive. And not only are our organizations strong in coalition, but we have the power of hope and solidarity on our side. I've already seen a number of questions in the chat about immigration raids and deportation, and I want to communicate how incredibly essential it is that we all work together to make sure that immigrants across our Commonwealth know their rights. We need to make sure that immigrants know that they do not need to open their doors to ICE without a signed judicial warrant. We want to ensure that they know their rights to ask to consult an attorney before speaking to ICE and answering their questions or signing any documents. We want to ensure that everyone knows their rights under our laws and is able to assert those rights. I believe that we'll be dropping in the chat a link to Mira's information where we have a number of publicly available resources that give Know Your Rights information for immigrants to equip them with this. Those resources are available in several languages. They are all publicly available and shareable. And the link also includes information if anyone on this call is interested in attending a session to learn more, to understand your own rights as an immigrant, or if you'd like to attend one of our Train the Trainers sessions to take that information back and share it in your communities. As we fight back against everything happening on the federal level, here in Massachusetts, there are clear steps that we can take to protect our immigrant communities. There are concrete reforms that we can make that would help protect immigrants at risk of deportation. Here in Massachusetts, we're calling upon our leaders on Beacon Hill to pass the Safe Communities Act as soon as possible. This is a bill that would stop ICE from deputizing local officials and making them do the job of the federal government in implementing our immigration laws. And the many immigrants at risk of deportation also deserve fair access to an attorney. That is why we're also calling on state lawmakers to expand immigration legal defense funding for immigrants. Immigrants are far more likely to win their cases in deportation proceedings if they are represented by counsel, rather than facing those court proceedings on their own. You can learn more and join all of these efforts to organize and protect immigrants on Mira's website or through our social media, or by connecting to so many of our member organizations across the state. Regardless of yesterday's executive orders or any further actions that attempt to undermine the rights of immigrants, we and so many organizations and leaders will be here. We will continue to bring hope and love to advocate for these basic protections and for the rights and dignity that everyone should enjoy. We will be organizing in the face of raids and enforcement activities here in Massachusetts, and we will be getting up every day and acting together in solidarity to protect our strong and diverse communities. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Liz, so much. Thank you for all that information. I mean, obviously, Trump is going to absolutely try to terrorize immigrants in our country, and all that information that was up on the screen, I think, is absolutely essential for people who want to be working with you, partnering with you. So to everyone out there, please, contact Mira if you want to help in this effort, or if you know people who need help as well, that would be great. So thank you so much. And now we turn to my great partner in the United States Senate, just fresh from the Senate floor, the great Elizabeth Warren. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Yes, fresh from the Senate floor, fresh and cold. You will notice I have my coat on. It is cold in Washington, D.C., and I had to step out of the Capitol to be able to do this. So I just want to say, I say it all the time, how proud I am to be from Massachusetts, never more so than when I'm in Washington, D.C., but also never more so than when I have a chance to stand with the fearless leaders that you're hearing from tonight. So thank you to everyone who's here tonight to talk, and especially to my partner in the Senate, Ed Markey, for bringing us together. So I just want to reflect for a second on Donald Trump's speech yesterday after he was sworn in. So here it is. He's barely sworn in. And what does he spend his time talking about? He talks about renaming the Gulf of Mexico. He talks about taking back the Panama Canal. But what he doesn't talk about is how he's going to lower costs for working people. Nope. Trump is about distraction and division. And our job is just to make sure that doesn't happen. In Massachusetts, we are going to stay committed. We are going to stay committed to the people who depend on us. We are not going to let him divide us. We're going to work as a team and look out for each other. And here in DC, we're going to call out the corruption, call out the greed, call out the cruelty wherever we see it. I think of this as a time that we remind ourselves and each other that we can all do this separately and we can have some effect. But all of us together is where our power lies. All of us organizing, mobilizing, demonstrating, supporting each other. I am in all the way. And this is how we are going to fight back. We are going to be effective. Remember, we are in a 2-year transition period right now. We stay focused. We keep our heads down, our voices loud, and we get our work done. So thank you all for being on this call. Organize, mobilize, demonstrate. We're going to do it. Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me.
You're great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And just know, everyone, we're battling on the Senate floor all day, every day, for as long as it takes. And we know that you're back home doing the same thing. So it's just critical. Thank you so much for joining, Elizabeth. And again, thanks to everyone who has joined us. And next, we know that there is an incredible assault that is underway against the LGBTQ community. We know that it's only going to ramp up. We know that this whole idea, well, an executive order saying there's only 2 genders, we know what it's all about. It's all towards dividing. It's all towards ensuring that they aren't leading to make America great again, but make America hate again. We know what it's all about. And so we're joined now by Tanya Neslusen. Thank you so much. And thank you for your great leadership at Mass Equality. Just absolutely the best. So welcome. We want to hear your message.
Thank you, Senator. So Mass Equality, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a statewide organization protecting the rights and lived equality of all LGBTQ residents of the Commonwealth. Obviously, we were really taken aback. I shouldn't say taken aback because we knew it was coming, right? We were not surprised. We're prepared to fight with not only the horrendous executive order that came down from the Trump administration yesterday, trying to define gender, redefine gender, but also the fact that, you know, one of his other executive orders peeled back existing protections for members of the LGBTQ community around sexual orientation and gender identity. We're prepared to fight. We also, as a community, have to fight these other battles as well, because we are not just one thing. We are Black, we are brown, we are immigrants. We are a multitude of things. We give birth. We need healthcare. We need reproductive healthcare. We need jobs. Everyone's work in this space is something that impacts our community. With regard to the executive order around gender identity, I want to say very clearly to my community, we are prepared to fight. We are prepared to make sure that we shore up the protections in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as work with our national partners to fight against any of the federal implications of this executive order. This is not something that can go into effect tomorrow, because to be very clear, the way that these things are worded, they're going to have to change legislation. They are going to have to change policy bit by bit in order to get these things implemented. And we are going to fight them every step of the way, and we will win. And we will come together as a community, not just transgender people, queer people, allies. All of us are going to come together. We are going to organize. We are going to fight. Please be assured that we have your back. We're not just fighting at the federal level. We're also fighting at the state level. We saw some anti-trans policies introduced in the state legislature this year. We are confident that they are not going to get very far, but we will get pushed through is the positive protections to protect us from any federal shenanigans over the next couple of years. We're also working very hard at the municipal level to try and combat any of the disinformation campaigns against the transgender community that have so deeply invaded our lives. And I just ask that for those of you out there who are vested in this fight, please join us, organize with us, work with us, because when we all stand together, we are a powerful force and they cannot take us down.
Thank you, Tanya, so much. Thank you for all of your great work, and you are fierce, and we are just going to battle back. And I see Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, who is joining us, and fresh off of the floor of the House of Representatives, and she has spent her whole career moving the needle towards the progressive victory on each and every one of the issues we've been discussing tonight. And let me turn it over to Congresswoman Pressley, and just know that as a team, we work together to battle on all these issues. So Ayanna, take it away.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. As the senator said, it looks like I'm frozen here. Everything's frozen.
We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we hear you. And
Okay.
by the way, you're frozen perfectly. I mean, if she's outside in the Capitol right now, she's frozen, and you're frozen on the screen as well. So we can all.
I'm sorry that I can't. You can't see my face, but know that there is a smile on it. I'm joyful. The power of convening is a powerful thing. And Senator Markey, I thank you for convening us. Dr. King said that our most powerful weapon is organizing. And so you have brought those two together, both the power of convening and the power of organizing. So I thank you very much for your leadership. Coming off of the heels of celebrating the life of Dr. King, while also seeing the former occupant of the White House return to the highest office in the land on the same day, I can't help but feel the significance of the painful contradiction that we're feeling. From celebrating a man who gave his life for the pursuit of justice and equality to coming to terms with the reality that we are dealing with a president who is poised to inflict more hurt and harm on so many across the country, including the vibrant yet vulnerable communities I was elected to represent. Over the weekend, I've been reflecting on the question Dr. King posed time and again, will we descend into chaos or will we build a beloved community? The answer must always be community. And as a people, we must always work to actively build it. That's why this past weekend, I've been intentional about community events that feed our collective soul and recommit us to building a future rooted in love. I believe every movement needs three things: imagination, strategy, and stamina. Do y'all have a radical enough imagination to believe that we can build a future rooted in love? As the occupant of the White House lays out his hateful vision for America and Republicans in Congress prepare to enact it, because again, Project 2025 was not a blueprint. It was really a playbook. And what was Project 2025 is now simply Trump's agenda. And we see the beginnings of this through his executive actions. So we gather together in response to Trump's inauguration, and we do so together in beloved community, albeit virtual community, to organize and mobilize our collective power. Often we find ourselves saying that we're in unprecedented times these days. And, you know, I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for some precedented times. But the truth of the matter is that this is unprecedented for our lifetime. It's not unprecedented for the lifespan of the existence of us. The path to justice has never been a linear one. It is a jagged algorithm, and we are just in the algorithm. So if we are truly in unprecedented times, at least for our lifetime, what that demands of us is unprecedented organizing, unprecedented mobilizing, unprecedented hope, and unprecedented love. So we must fight for our neighbors and our loved ones. We must dig deep and begin the process of healing at every level. Today, we stand firm in our values and our commitment to every one of our neighbors, because an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and our destinies are tied. Today, we move forward nonviolently, a peaceful transfer of power in Washington, unlike the violent insurrection that found me on the floor in the dark, barricaded in my office 4 years ago. Today, we accept disappointment. Yes, the past election was a painful result, but we'll continue to do the work necessary to earn back voters' trust and to retake power in Washington. Dr. King reminds us, even with finite disappointment, we must cling to hope. So I'm telling you, I'm going to make sure when we get the power back, and we will, that we use it. Now, in the meantime, I won't sugarcoat it, family. It's going to be difficult during the next 4 years. The fear, uncertainty, and weariness in our communities is real. But I promise you, no matter what the next 4 years brings, this Congresswoman is going to do everything she can to protect the members of our community, our workers, our families, women, Black, brown, LGBTQ, disabled, immigrant neighbors, and everyone who stands to be harmed by this new administration, which hourly is proving what they plan to do to everyone who calls this country home instead of for. We will lean into mutual aid. We will be ready with every stopgap at all levels of government to protect our fundamental rights. We've done it before, we'll do it again. So let us have the imagination to envision a more just world, the strategy to bring it to fruition, and the stamina to see it through. So to everyone listening in, I say thank you. You chose to be in community tonight. You chose to channel your fears, your anxieties, and uncertainties into collective action. You chose to never surrender your right to joy. You chose to continue to march to put justice and righteousness ahead of your own personal comfort. And as we face the challenges of another Trump presidency, we will need radical love and a cooperative spirit now more than ever. So where are we going? Chaos or community? Tonight we choose community, and we will do so every day thereafter. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman Presley. Thank you for being a leader today and every day to ensure that we have the voices of all of the groups that are on this call and the 1,100 people who have joined us from across the state. When Ayanna steps forward on the House floor, the Republicans take a step back. They know they're in for a fight on all of these issues. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Congresswoman Presley. Just a great leader. Thank you. And we started tonight hearing from the Attorney General, who is the public attorney to protect all of the groups, all of the interests who are represented on this call this evening and across the state. And we're going to finish with Carol Rose from the American Civil Liberties Union, because they are on the outside defending every one of these civil liberties as well, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. But I think the Massachusetts ACLU is at the cutting edge because of you as well, by the way, because of all the other groups who are on here tonight partnering with the ACLU. And so, Carol, it'd be great if you could give us an update as to what the ACLU is planning this year in terms of protecting all the rights that we've heard are going to be in jeopardy this year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Markey, for organizing us here tonight, for your leadership all the time in this fight for democracy and for our future. I want to thank all the elected leaders who are here. I mean, how lucky are we to have such courageous and remarkable elected officials here in Massachusetts? It's just really does give hope. I want to thank our partners. We are so honored. You know, all of this work happens in partnership and in coalition. None of it happens with just one group or one elected official alone. We're working together shoulder to shoulder. And most importantly, I want to thank all the people on this call tonight. You know, you are the beloved community. As Congresswoman Presley said, your presence here shows that we can and will fight for democracy and for our fundamental freedoms. So my name is Carol Rose, and I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Massachusetts. And while the ACLU is nonpartisan, we have always engaged in political advocacy to advance civil rights and civil liberties. It's now 105 years, 19 presidents. We're playing a long game, and we've been getting ready for this for months, and we are ready for the fight ahead. Now, we all know that fear and despair are tools that authoritarians use to try to keep people down. And that's why it's so important that we don't give in to fear and despair. As Senator Markey often reminds us, don't agonize, organize. At this critical inflection point for our nation and for our Commonwealth, your ACLU is ready to work with you. And we have so many tools at our disposal. We have litigation in the courts. We have advocacy in Congress, in the state legislature, in our city halls and towns, on our school boards. And with your help, with people power, we can mobilize together to protect our nation and our democracy. Yesterday, on day one, your ACLU, including here in Massachusetts, sued the Trump administration twice over their immigration executive orders, particularly over the blatantly unconstitutional executive order that would seek to deny citizenship to babies that are born in the United States. You know, birthright citizenship is guaranteed by our Constitution. It is absolutely essential to what America stands for. And ending it would create a permanent underclass of people who would be stateless here and in the world. It's so unconscionable and it's so clearly unconstitutional. So that's why we went to court on day one to block it. And, you know, I just want to say a lot of people are saying, well, you know, with the Supreme Court such as it is, are the courts lost to us? And that's just not true. You know, the good news is the Supreme Court only takes about 60 cases a year, and there are thousands of cases that go up through the courts, in the state courts, and the federal courts. So we have lawyers in all 50 states, and we're going to continue to fight for your rights and for our democracy in the courts. But we don't stop at the courts. We also advocate in Congress, in state legislatures, and in town hall and in town meeting. And that's where we really need your help. We can leverage the power of state and local government to defend basic civil rights and civil liberties. You know, and Massachusetts has done this throughout history. We've always been at the forefront, if you would, at the vanguard of our country's freedom from the beginning of the founding of the nation. And at this high stake moment in our country, it's so important that we call upon our elected officials at the state level to adopt some firewalls. We're calling them firewalls for freedom. And you can find out more about it at www.aclum.org. Firewalls for freedom. So one of the key firewalls for freedom is what we're calling the Location Shield Act. Now, this is a bill that's in front of the legislature that would ban the sale of cell phone location data in Massachusetts. So we all know we all walk around with our phones all the time, right? And your phone can be tracked. Privacy profiteers, these private companies are profiteering from selling your data location and tracking you, and they just sell it to the highest bidder. This threatens real world people, everything from abortion providers and abortion patients, people seeking gender affirming care, people who are journalists, who are immigrants, who are political activists, domestic violence survivors. they can be tracked simply because of their cell phones. And it's so easy to fix this by passing the Location Shield Act. So again, you can go to our website at www.aclum.org/firewalls and learn how you can get involved. A call will help. So we have the courts, we have advocacy in our legislative bodies, but last but not least, we have people power. And that's where all of you come in. I've been so impressed by the questions in the chat that I've been watching throughout this, and people saying, what can I do to get involved? How can I get involved? Well, you've taken the first step by showing up here tonight. And so go to aclum.org and check out our Know Your Rights page, contact the legal resource team that we have on the website. And if you have questions, specific questions, if you think your rights have been violated or you know someone whose rights are violated, you can get information on knowing your rights. And most important, you can get information on how you can get involved and be part of our action team to actually push back against these horrible excesses of this administration. So stay connected with your leaders who are on this call. We have such good leaders here in Massachusetts. Make sure they hear your voices. Showing up really, really makes a difference. You can again join our action team at www.aclum.org/get involved. And then share the link with 5 of your best friends. The more people that we can have mobilizing, the stronger we are. There is safety in numbers. There is strength in numbers. And finally, show up. Just speak out, whatever that looks like for you. You're already doing it here tonight, but show up, whether it's attending a rally or passing policies in your city or town to protect civil rights, or writing to your elected official, or giving them a call, or donate to any of the groups that are on this call tonight, and the politicians too. We all can make a difference. Each one of us, wherever we are in our lives, we can make a difference. Everybody has to work together. We can't leave it to others to save the day. Each of us has to be a part of it. So today and tomorrow and every day, know that your ACLU will show up. We'll show up in the courtrooms, we'll show up in the State House, and we'll show up in your community to protect fundamental freedoms. And you can count on us, because I know that we can count on you. Thank you.
So, Carol, thank you so much. And thanks for your leadership. And thank you, by the way, for asking everyone to reach out to 5 more people to organize, not agonize. We've got to get up. We've got to fight. We've got to resist. And we're going to continue to have these sessions. We're going to continue to stay in community so that we are organizing. And I think that what's going to happen is that as each day goes by, and it's very clear that Donald Trump was hiding the ball during his campaign, the American people, the people of Massachusetts, are going to see the real agenda. And they're going to see how it impacts them or people who they love. And it's going to be more and more clear. And as each day goes by, led by Massachusetts, a movement is going to be built by the time we reach the spring. When all across our country, it's going to be a movement that's going to create the momentum that is going to create that moment where that Trump agenda just comes to an end. And it builds slowly, but you are the leaders. That's what's happening tonight. And Donald Trump is going to contribute to that movement by every day trying to do something that's more outrageous than what he did the day before. You have already talked about the harms in all of the communities which you represent. When they asked the ancient Greek philosopher, when would we know true justice? He answered, we will know true justice when those who have not been harmed are as angry as those who have been harmed. So that's, I think, what our job is going to be, to continue to talk to more and more and more people who are outraged at the harm which is going to befall so many people in the Commonwealth and all across the country. So my message to you is, don't agonize, organize, keep talking to more people, keep explaining the harm which is going to befall individuals in the Commonwealth and across the country, and stay close. reach out to me at edmarkey.org /get involved, edmarkey.org /get involved, and reach out to all of the other different websites that have been put up on the screen in the course of tonight. We're going to continue to have these sessions. We have to stay in community. We have to stay organized. They have a plan, but our plan is going to be better because we're going to have the people. They're going to have the billionaires. We're going to have the people. The 3 billionaires who sat up on that stage behind Trump have more wealth than the bottom 165 million people in the United States, the bottom half of our population. And they glorified that wealth and didn't talk about the bottom 50% in terms of income in our country for 1 second in that inaugural address. So we know what we're up against, but we know ultimately people power is going to win because it always wins. So thank you all so much. And go out and organize. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And we're going to be seeing you and talking to you very